The ballroom lights shimmered like diamonds, every chandelier reflecting off the white marble floor. Champagne glasses clinked, laughter rolled, and my sister twirled in her designer gown while guests snapped photos. But all eyes weren't on her. They were on me. I froze when I saw it. My chair. The sign taped to the back wasn't my name. It wasn't even neutral. In bold black letters it read, "Single failure." Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. A sharp laugh erupted behind me. My stepmother, Victoria, perfect hair in an updo, lips painted crimson, pointed at it like she'd just won a prize. "Well, at least we didn't lie, darling," she announced loudly enough for half the hall to hear. "She's 31 with no husband, no house, no future. What else should we write?" The guests chuckled, some hiding their smirks behind glasses, others shaking their heads in pity. My father didn't stop her. My sister giggled, clutching her groom's arm, basking in the spectacle. My hands curled into fists under the tablecloth. My chest burned, but I stayed quiet. My face didn't move, though my silence only fueled their cruelty. "Look at her," Victoria sneered, circling me like a predator savoring prey. "You're lucky we even gave you a seat, sweetheart. You should be grateful your sister is successful enough to carry this family's name with pride. Unlike you." Laughter erupted again, cruel and stinging. I swallowed hard, forcing back the tears clawing at my throat. My palms pressed against the table, every nerve screaming at me to run or scream. But instead, I straightened my spine. Then it happened. A deep, rumbling engine cut through the music outside the hall. Heads turned toward the entrance as the sound grew louder, stopping right at the front steps. Through the open double doors, gleaming under the night lights, a midnight black Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled up, its polished body reflecting every flash of camera light. The entire room fell into a stunned hush. The chauffeur stepped out first, rushing to open the back door. And then, a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit emerged, broad shoulders, sharp jawline, eyes that commanded silence the second they scanned the hall. His presence was magnetic, commanding. He wasn't just walking into a wedding, he was walking into a battlefield. Every whisper died. Even Victoria's smug smile froze. The man's gaze cut through the crowd until it landed on me. For the first time that night, I let my lips curve into the faintest smirk. He strode forward with measured steps, each one echoing across the marble. And when he reached me, his hand slid naturally around my waist, pulling me close with the kind of intimacy that made the hall gasp. "My wife," he said, his voice calm but cold, slicing through the air like steel. Did someone just call her a failure? Silence. Absolute silence. The champagne fizzled untouched, the laughter vanished, and even the music seemed to stop on command. I lifted my chin, locking eyes with Victoria, her face drained of color. For the first time in years, she had nothing to say, because the game had just turned. Did someone just call my wife a failure? Alex's voice sliced through the hall, low and commanding, like he wasn't asking a question, he was delivering a warning. The room froze. Forks paused midair, champagne glasses trembled in nervous hands. Every guest looked around, searching for the courage none of them had. Victoria's painted smile cracked. She cleared her throat, forcing out a nervous laugh. "Oh, Alex, you must be joking. We were only teasing Madison. She's always been so sensitive." Alex's grip around my waist tightened, grounding me. His eyes narrowed at her, unblinking. There's a difference between teasing and humiliation. And I don't tolerate anyone humiliating my wife. My heart pounded, each word of his pushing the years of silence, ridicule, and neglect I had endured straight into the open. For once, they weren't being dismissed. They were being challenged. Victoria opened her mouth again, but Richard, my father, stepped forward first, trying to regain control. His voice boomed across the hall. "That's enough. This is my daughter's wedding. We don't need drama." Alex turned his gaze on him, steady, unyielding. And yet, you allowed this circus to happen under your roof. His eyes flicked toward the chair with the ugly label still taped to the back. Single failure. You let them label Madison like she's beneath everyone here. Tell me, Richard, does a father laugh when his own child is degraded? A heavy silence fell. My father's jaw tensed, but he didn't answer. He couldn't. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some avoided eye contact, while others, those who had laughed earlier, suddenly found their champagne flutes fascinating. Olivia, the bride, finally snapped. Can we stop making this about Maddie for once? It's my wedding, not her redemption story. She clung to Ethan's arm, pouting like a spoiled child. She's been nothing but an embarrassment her whole life. Why should tonight be any different? The words sliced me open, sharper than glass. But before I could even flinch, Alex stepped forward, his presence towering, his tone like fire under ice. You should be careful what you say, Olivia. Because the only embarrassment here isn't Madison, it's this family's cruelty. Gasps rippled through the hall. Someone whispered, "He's not afraid of them." Olivia's face flushed crimson. She stomped her heel against the marble floor. Who even are you to talk like this in front of my guests? You think driving up in a fancy car makes you someone? Alex's lips curled into the faintest smirk. I don't think. I know. His words hung heavy, vibrating in the silence that followed. His reputation, his power, wasn't something that needed announcing. The Rolls-Royce outside already told half the story. His presence told the rest. Victoria tried to recover, pressing her manicured nails into her palm. Madison could have had all this years ago if she weren't so stubborn. She chose failure. She chose loneliness. Her eyes flicked to Alex, calculating. And now what? She drags home a man with a car to play savior? You don't know what she's like, Alex. She's nothing. That was the moment I broke my silence. Enough. My voice rang out sharper than I intended. For the first time that evening, all eyes shifted to me, not to mock, not to laugh, but because I had finally taken control. I stepped away from Alex just enough to stand on my own 2 feet. My hands no longer shook. My chest no longer burned with swallowed tears. You've spent years reminding me of what I'm not, I said, locking eyes with Victoria. Not pretty enough. Not successful enough. Not worthy enough. But tonight, you showed everyone who you really are, people who take pride in tearing down others just to feel bigger. And I'm done playing along. Victoria's face drained of color. Richard's brows furrowed, his hand twitching at his side like he wanted to stop me, but didn't dare. Olivia scoffed, muttering under her breath, but her grip on Ethan's arm betrayed her unease. Alex stepped closer, his voice steady, anchoring my words. Madison doesn't need to prove herself to any of you. But since you're so obsessed with appearances, maybe you should know exactly who you've been mocking. The guests leaned in, whispers hissing through the air like static. The tension was suffocating, every breath thick with anticipation. Victoria snapped, her voice shrill. And who is she, Alex? Enlighten us. Because all I see is the same little girl who never measured up. Alex's eyes darkened, his hand resting on my shoulder. She's my wife. The woman I built my empire beside. The woman who stood by me when everyone else turned their backs. You see me, my car, my name, my power. But what you don't understand is none of that exists without her. A stunned hush blanketed the hall. A woman in the front row gasped. Olivia's smile faltered, just for a second. Victoria blinked rapidly, like she hadn't expected the ground to shift this quickly. Alex's words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They carried a weight that silenced every laugh, every whisper, every smirk that had filled the room earlier. I inhaled slowly, my chest rising with something I hadn't felt in years, vindication. And as the hall stood frozen, I looked at my family, at the same faces that had mocked me hours earlier, and let the corners of my lips turn upward. For the first time in a long time, the shame wasn't mine to carry. It was theirs. The ballroom still hadn't found its breath. My husband's words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to break. Olivia's groom, Ethan, shifted uncomfortably, his fingers tugging at his collar. The proud smile he'd been wearing all night had slipped into something else, hesitation, even fear. He glanced between Alex and me, suddenly unsure if he'd married into the right family. Victoria finally snapped. Her laugh came out brittle, desperate. "Oh, please. This is ridiculous. Madison? Helping you build an empire? She can barely keep her own life together. Stop feeding these people fairy tales." Alex turned his head slowly, his sharp eyes locking onto her. His voice dropped lower than before, colder, quieter, yet more dangerous than shouting could ever be. "Fairy tales? You're standing in one. And you're the villain everyone is about to recognize." A ripple went through the crowd. Guests leaned closer, hungry for more. I lifted my chin, my pulse racing. For years I'd been the silent one, the one who swallowed humiliation just to keep the peace. "Not tonight." "Victoria," I said, steady and sharp, "you don't know the first thing about what I've built. You only know how to destroy. And maybe that worked when I was a kid, too scared to speak up. But I'm not that girl anymore." Her eyes widened, the confidence faltering. "Don't you dare talk to me like that." "Like what?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "Like the woman who raised me while reminding me every single day that I was second best? Like the stepmother who smiled to the world while shoving me into the shadows." The whispers grew louder, sharp like glass. Guests exchanged looks, some horrified, some disgusted. I pressed forward, no longer hiding, no longer trembling. "You labeled my chair single failure. You wanted everyone to laugh at me. But tell me, Victoria, what does it make you, standing here trying to break down someone you'll never be able to measure up to?" Gasps filled the hall. Victoria's face twisted, but the mask she wore every day, the flawless society woman, was cracking right in front of everyone. Richard finally snapped. "Enough. Madison, you've embarrassed this family for years. Don't act like you're suddenly better than us just because you dragged some man into the room with a fancy car." Alex's head tilted slowly, his expression darkening. "Some man? Do you even know who I am, Richard?" My father hesitated. His jaw worked, but no words came out. Alex took a step forward, towering, his presence swallowing the space. "I'll make it simple. Alexander Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises. The same company your construction firm's been begging for contracts from." The air turned electric. A murmur surged through the hall, shockwave after shockwave. People who had laughed earlier now whispered my husband's name with awe. The shift was immediate. Those who had mocked me now sat rigid, afraid they'd just laughed at the wrong person. Richard's face drained of color. His mouth opened, then closed again, words failing him. I turned toward him, letting the satisfaction seep into my voice. "So, Dad, tell me again how much of a failure I am." The guests exploded in whispers. I saw heads turning, cameras snapping discreet photos, the story already spinning into gossip that would ripple across the entire town by morning. Olivia's voice cracked, shrill with panic.
"No.
"No, this isn't fair. She doesn't deserve this. I was supposed to be the one everyone admired tonight, not her. This is my wedding, my night." She stomped her heel again, her face blotched red, but no one laughed this time. No one supported her tantrum. Instead, Ethan pulled his arm away from her. "Olivia," his voice was low, uncomfortable. "I didn't know you treated your sister like this. I didn't know your family was like this." Her eyes widened, panic setting in. "Ethan, don't you dare embarrass me now." But his expression had already shifted into disgust. The fairy tale wedding she had bragged about had just collapsed into a nightmare, and everyone was watching. Victoria tried one last time, her tone dripping with poison. "Alex, you're making a mistake. Madison has nothing to offer you. She's weak, insecure. Nothing more than the pity case she's always been." That was it. The last straw. Alex's voice was a blade. "Weak? Insecure? Madison is the strongest person I know. She carried scars no one here cared to see. She was mocked, humiliated, betrayed, yet she never turned cruel like you. If that's weakness, then maybe the rest of you should pray to be as weak as her. The room erupted, not in laughter this time, but in applause. Genuine, thunderous applause that rattled glasses and made Victoria flinch. I stood frozen for a second, staring at the sea of faces clapping for me. For me, the woman they had laughed at just an hour ago. My throat tightened, but not from pain this time. From something else. Something sharp. Something freeing. I looked at my sister, who stood red-faced and trembling, her perfect wedding night shattered. I looked at my father, who couldn't lift his eyes. I looked at Victoria, whose lips quivered like her entire mask had been ripped away. And then I whispered to Alex, just loud enough for them all to hear. It feels good, doesn't it? To finally stop being their shadow. He smiled, proud and steady, pressing a kiss to my temple. Tonight, Maddie, he murmured. You stepped into your own light. The applause thundered on. And for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink back from it. The applause still thundered when Victoria hissed through clenched teeth. Stop clapping. All of you, stop. Her voice cracked, trembling as if her perfect image was slipping beyond repair. But no one listened. The crowd's eyes had shifted. Where an hour ago they laughed at me, now they looked at her with disgust. Richard slammed his palm on the table. Enough. You're all forgetting this is Olivia's wedding, not a circus show for Madison to pretend she matters. I turned to him, the man whose approval I had chased all my life. My voice was low, but it carried, steady and sharp. Pretend? I never pretended, Dad. I begged for your respect. And, tonight, everyone here finally sees why you never gave it. Because respecting me would have meant admitting how cruel you've been. His jaw flexed, but his silence betrayed him. The truth had already landed like a knife. Olivia, in her ivory gown, shook with rage. This isn't happening, she muttered, clutching the skirt of her dress like she could squeeze the night back into control. This was supposed to be my perfect moment. Everyone was supposed to admire me, not her. Ethan finally spoke, his voice firmer this time. Olivia, do you even hear yourself? Look around you. No one's admiring you right now. They're horrified. Her eyes widened, panic flooding her face. Don't you dare turn on me too. But he only stepped back, putting distance between them. Victoria spun toward Alex, her composure cracking. You don't understand this family. You don't understand the damage she's caused. You'll regret tying yourself to her. Alex's voice was calm steel. The only regret I see tonight is yours, for underestimating her. Then, he reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a thin envelope. Every eye in the hall followed it. He placed it on the head table in front of my father. Since you all care so much about appearances, let me help. Inside is the finalized agreement. As of yesterday, Reed Enterprises no longer considers Clark and Hayes Construction a viable partner. Your contracts, your lifeline, are terminated. The room gasped. Richard's hand trembled as he tore open the envelope, scanning the crisp papers. His face drained to gray. You can't do this, he whispered, his voice broken. Alex leaned in slightly, his words cutting like frost. I already did. Richard staggered back into his chair, defeated. The man who always lorded control over me now looked like a shell of himself, powerless in front of the very guests he had once impressed. Olivia's scream pierced the silence. No. You ruined everything. My wedding, my family, our future. She shoved the papers toward Ethan, desperate. Do something. But Ethan only shook his head, his voice heavy. You did this, Olivia. You and your family. I can't stand next to people who treat others like this. Her knees buckled, her gown pooling around her like a costume that no longer mattered. Victoria reached for her glass, her hand shaking, her painted mask shattered. You think this makes you better than us, Madison? Her voice was bitter, laced with venom. I took a deep breath, my chest lifting. The entire hall waited for my answer. For once, they weren't waiting to laugh. They were waiting to listen. No, I said quietly, letting the silence stretch. It doesn't make me better. It just proves I was never less. The words sank in like stone, heavy and undeniable. For years, I had walked into rooms in this family feeling small, silenced, diminished. Tonight, I didn't just walk in with Alex, I walked in with my voice. Victoria lowered her eyes, her lips trembling. Richard said nothing. Olivia sat collapsed, her perfect day in ruins. And the guests, the same ones who had mocked me earlier, stood. One by one, they rose from their chairs, not clapping this time, but standing in quiet acknowledgement, their eyes on me. Not her.
Not them. Me.
Alex's hand slid back into mine, steady and warm. He whispered so only I could hear, "They'll never cage you again, Maddie. Tonight you broke free." Tears finally filled my eyes, but they weren't from shame. They were from release. I turned to the hall, my voice clear, unshaken. This was never about proving I was good enough for them. It was about proving I was strong enough without them. The hall erupted again. Applause, cheers, murmurs of awe. The humiliation they had orchestrated had flipped into my triumph, witnessed by every single person present. Victoria slumped in her chair. Richard stared at the floor. Olivia clutched her ruined gown, and Ethan quietly walked away. I stood in the center of the storm. No longer the shadow, no longer the family's scapegoat. I was Madison Clark Reed. And tonight, they would never forget my name.